Zealand is said to be a young country, a country whose history doesn't reach back anywhere near as far as that of European countries. But it does value the history it has, and throughout New Zealand there are those who make sure its history is noted, recorded, marked in some way, defining how things started and developed. And Hawke's Bay is no exception. In Havelock North, one such icon of the past is Duart House. Set in 3 acres of garden, this grand old house was built for a Scottish settler, Alan MacLean, Duart being named after Duart Castle on the Isle of Mull in Scotland, the clan seat and stronghold of Clan MacLean. Alan MacLean arrived in Hawke's Bay in the late 1860s and took up land on the banks of the Tukituki River. In fact, he became known as Tuki MacLean, to distinguish him from other MacLeans already living in Hawke's Bay, and the property became well known for both sheep farming and as a thoroughbred horse stud. But once Duart was built, and that was in 1882-83, although this photograph shows it in 1906, Tuki, Hannah and their 7 children moved into their grand new home near Havelock, and Tukituki Station was sold. Duart was built using heart rimu and other indigenous timbers milled at Puketitri, and the designs specified a tower, a feature often seen in the rather grand houses of the time. Some believe to remind Tuki of his native Scotland. In the early days, when Duart stood alone on the almost treeless slopes of the Havelock Hills, its tower was a landmark which could be seen from all directions. Today the property is sited on Duart Road near Nigel Street, a street which has a connection with Tuki and Hannah MacLean, for Nigel, their 8th child, was born at Duart. He died of wounds received at Gallipoli, and the street was named in his memory. Tuki was a rather difficult person, and wouldn't allow any gardens near the house. Sheep and horses, yes, but not gardens. But within a day or 2 of his demise, and during the whole year of her mourning, his wife Hannah was seen about town wearing a straw hat merrily decorated with red geraniums. The time for gardens had come, and today the gardens at Duart House are a major attraction. From 1915 to 1921, Duart was used as a coeducational primary school, known as St George's School, the forerunner, it is thought, of the Steiner School, and it served this purpose very well. It was during this time that the word house was added to the name. In 1926, the property was leased by Roger Greenwood and family, eventually being bought by them in 1936. In 1931, the Hawke's Bay earthquake struck, but Duart House fared well, with just damage largely to the chimneys. The Greenwoods were hard-working, modest and quiet, and in spite of not being a flamboyant family, the house was well filled by friends and relations, and frequent musical and cultural evenings were held with artists and musicians who were often entertained. The family were very involved in the community, and they were extremely keen gardeners, creating a huge and productive vegetable garden and orchard, and a most beautiful garden around the house. Before his death, Roger Greenwood, seen here on the left, offered Duart free to the Havelock North Borough Council, who declined the offer, although later it was accepted when offered by Rosemary Greenwood for a purely nominal price, thus leading the way to it being used by the people of Havelock North in ways thought suitable by the council. Of course, various viewpoints were aired. There were those who thought the council didn't need a house such as Duart. After all, it would cost money to maintain it. But the council accepted the offer, and with it the responsibility to maintain the grounds and the exterior of the house. It's a delightful place to visit, and this tree, known as the Coronation Oak, was planted all those years ago by Hannah McLean to commemorate the coronation of King Edward VII. The Duart Gardens are open all year round, providing an ideal venue for weddings, plenty of room for all the guests in nature's own amphitheatre. In 2011, in a change from the usual venue, the Art Deco function After the Dust Has Settled was held at Duart House, a chance to remember that Hastings and other centres suffered from the quake of 1931. Indeed, today Hastings has a substantial number of Art Deco buildings, and this Duart House function celebrated memories of that 1930s era. Summertime, of course, is when the gardens are seen at their best, offering a different way of presenting the work of local artists in the two-day presentation of Art in the Garden. And the Heritage Rose Group also enjoy their interest of old world roses, discussing the finer points and relaxing in the grounds with a picnic lunch. This is Duart at its best. In 1985, the Duart House Society was formed with the aim of caring for the property in a manner appropriate for a building of such historic importance. And although the Hastings District Council remains the owner of the property, maintaining the gardens and the house exterior, the house interior is administered and cared for by the Duart House Society. In November 2011, Sir Lachlan Maclean, head of Clan Maclean, whose home is in Duart Castle on the Isle of Mull, visited Duart House, an event that drew people from a wide area. Indeed, some turned out to be rather ardent supporters, it seems. Sir Lachlan had been touring widely, and with so many functions and so much public speaking, was losing his voice somewhat. Nonetheless, he was warmly welcomed by Hastings Mayor Lawrence Ewell and a most appreciative crowd.
In this beautiful place, which is lovingly and caringly looked after by Peggy and her crew. Sometimes against significant odds, but we're well on track.
We usually win.
We usually win, I found that, as they battle for resources and other things from the council and all sorts of things. But it's a delight to have you with us, and I understand you're perhaps losing your voice and probably suffering the vagaries of travel. But just on behalf of the people of Hawke's Bay, the Maclean family and descendants and other related parties who are represented today, a very warm welcome from us, from the people of Hastings, and a particularly warm welcome from the people associated with Duart House.
My mother has reminded me at least 4 times already, and she sent me all sorts of good wishes.
One interesting aspect of Duart House is the interior and the exhibits contained therein. The house has a fine collection of paintings by artist George Thomson Pritchard. George Thomson Pritchard was born in Havelock in 1878 and died in California in 1962. He worked in oils and watercolour, his subject matter covering quite a range. His painting, Forgive Those Who Trespass, is one which forms part of the Duart House collection, which includes a total of 20 paintings by George Thomson Pritchard. Upstairs, the rooms are presented for public display, furnished and decorated in a style which takes one back to earlier years at Duart House. Duart also has a croquet lawn, and on any fine Tuesday, a mecca for those who like to engage in a little gentle exercise. Over the fence and through the back gate is another eclectic collection of memorabilia, gathered over time by the late Gwen and Bill Dorwood, a fascinating glimpse of items from everyday life of years now gone. Duart House continues to be a focal point in the history of Havelock North, and although it doesn't receive any funding assistance from the New Zealand Historic Places Trust, it is a listed building, and a much valued attraction in Havelock North. The house provides a venue for musical concerts, yoga classes, there's even a Dutch coffee group, as well as other activities, the gardens being a perfect environment in which charities often hold fundraising functions during the year. And the Duart House Society organises and promotes regular talks and publications of historical importance. In 2012, the house underwent a complete repainting of its exterior, resulting in an immaculate, cared-for and valued icon of Havelock North's past. So, Duart House is well worth a visit, a reminder of times past when things moved perhaps at a more gentle pace, but a time by which one can connect to the history of Havelock North.